Hey everybody, it's the Historical Gamer here, and I just wanted to have a quick preface on today's single malt strategy episode. This is our most anticipated episode for 2025. Now, you may be looking at your clock and saying, hey, this isn't coming out until mid-March. I mean, early May, because my son decided to come 3 weeks early and derail all of this editing. But hey, you know. We recorded this episode at the end of January. I had a bunch of crazy hectic work stuff, some family stuff. I won't go into the litany of excuses, but the delay on this editing of this episode was unacceptable. I will work to not have that happen again. I debated not airing the episode, but frankly, I think it was a really fun back and forth between Tortuga and Wolf and myself. Most of the games that we talk about here haven't come out yet, so it still felt topical, still felt timely, but I just wanted to explain that delay between when this was recorded and when this came out. If anything seems a little bit off, that's because this was recorded back on January 20th, so, you know, a bit of time has passed. Still, I hope you guys enjoy the episode, and that's enough of that. Let's jump in. Hello, everybody. It's the Historical Gamer once again, but you can call me Matt. And today we're returning to the Single Malt Strategy Podcast, a momentous episode, episode number 90. In today's episode, we're going to be talking about 2025 and the year ahead and our varying degrees of excitement.
Yeah, varying.
Can you please put those applause in there?
Like a big crowd.
Like a live audience is very excited about our 90th.
Doesn't sound fake enough. It sounds too real. It needs to be more fake. I've got this if we need fake applause.
Excuse me, Wolf, nobody's supposed to know you're here until you're introduced.
I apologize.
How are we supposed to know anyone is here? Is life real? Is the universe real?
Sorry, I'm used to the Jimmy Kimmel show where they get straight to the point and introduce me, you know.
You've been on this podcast at least 10 times now, and you know better than that.
10 times? You think so? I guess I've been on the podcast for over a year now, huh? Like, relatively frequently.
Yeah, I mean, you've been here quite a bit.
Nobody's saying it, but more than you should. But nobody's saying it.
No, I enjoy it.
Some people might be saying.
I know. I see the hate comments. You know, I've been dodging hate all my life. So
there's comments. It's usually positive, at least regarding you.
I'm joking.
Anyway, so I'm Matt. Yeah, I've already introduced myself. That lovely voice over there is Wolfpack.
Are you serious? Wolf before me? Ugh. Et tu, Brutus?
I mean, this is already a mess. And then I've also got my co-host for now, Tortuga Power, as well. How you guys doing?
Pretty good.
I'm not going to talk for the rest.
You know, ringing in the new year, had a lot of snow here, which is fun for Texas, the Texas area.
How much snow you guys get?
It was almost a foot. Yeah, it was a foot in some areas. It was quite exciting.
I'm jealous. I live in frickin' Chicago, and we haven't gotten more than like 4 inches. It's been cold, don't get me wrong. So like last year it was 40 almost all winter, and it was a bizarro world. It's like there is no winter. But we haven't had any real big snowstorms. We've gotten like 2 inches a couple of times, 1, 3, 4-ish snowstorm. But we haven't gotten like any real storms yet, and it's really bothering. I like winter. I like a lot of snow. I don't need just bitter cold with grass all over those. So been a little bit frustrated.
Just be careful, guys. Don't dox yourselves. People now know that Wolf lives in Texas, and that narrows it down quite a bit.
I just want you all to know, Texas is just where I winter. I'm not here year round. Gosh.
If you happen to stumble across one of 30 million people in the state of Texas during the winter months only, you might run into Wolf.
I mean, if Finnish knew that he lived in Houston, he'd probably kill him.
Yeah.
I don't know what I'm going to do with any of this content.
It's a lot of cutting.
So 2025.
You could say this is cutting commentary.
It's the year we're in. And, you know, every year we typically talk about games that are slated to come out in this year. And we like to talk about games we're excited about. And usually we're wrong. Usually those games come out 5 years later. But, you know, I'm doing my best to make sure my list is plausibly games that'll come out this year. But we want to talk about, you know, what games are we excited about that are supposed to come out this year. I guess we can just jump straight into it. Why don't we start with you, Tortuga? I think I've got more than 5 games I want to talk about, but probably just limit it to 3, at least on my end, that I want to talk a bit about more. But why don't we start with you, Tortuga? What's a game that you're excited about coming out in 2025? Or is there nothing you're excited about? Is this a bummer year?
It's a good question. I did a little bit of research to try to see what's coming out this next year. I tried to eliminate things that are obviously not going to come out this year. I also don't like to repeat things that were just on the 2024 podcast, but I'm going to. I just won't talk about them as much. I think that the elephant in the room here is obviously, as the Hooded Horse local representative, I need to mention Espiocracy did not make its 2024 release. So it's still on there. I can start with that game. I guess that's one that we were all excited about last year. And I have to say, I've mentioned it in private, but I may have mentioned it on the podcast too, but I've actually become kind of increasingly less excited about that game.
I want to hear why, but before we do that, just for those of you who are unfamiliar with Espiocracy,
what is it?
The general concept behind that game is you're running an intelligence agency during the Cold War, and yeah, I mean, that's essentially it. It kind of has some Paradox vibes to at least the screenshots that they've shared. And again, it takes place during the Cold War. You're in charge of an intelligence agency and everything that entails, right? Running missions and objectives and gaining, doing whatever, the CIA and KGB might do. That's about all I know. Like, I know they really haven't shared a ton, or at least I haven't been paying super close attention to it. So I'm curious why you're less high on it now than maybe you were a year ago.
I would say it's mostly that the initial hype, I thought that it was a very cool concept. I still think it's a cool concept. A little bit of the initial, like, wow, that's cool, has faded. And also, I think that because I can't visualize the gameplay loop, when I basically fill in the gaps myself, I cannot come up with a formula that is very interesting. How do I explain that better? I mean, I guess it must be some kind of like card or roll of the dice event system where you like send your spies on missions. I don't know. I'm not sure how much depth there will be to it. I can't visualize it. So it might be just my own lack of imagination.
I was thinking the same thing. I am interested in it, but it's like, how do you make that engaging? Because a lot of what spies do is not the flashy, cool stuff that we see in movies. I mean, that's pretty rare. It's just a lot of sitting around. And how do you make that engaging besides just being like a bunch of Hearts of Iron pop-ups?
Yeah, exactly.
But maybe that's why it got pushed back. Did it get pushed back properly, or was it just... Have they said anything about this?
I don't know if there's any official announcement, but I know that they were at some point, they were trying to do a 2024 release. But that's now become a 2025, and I don't even know if it's a hard 2025. I don't know where they're at, if they're trying to make that firm, or if we could even see this slip to 2026. Yeah, so I just want to mention that that's a game that I'm interested in. And I'm really interested to see how it plays out. I'm not sure how they'll make it interesting because especially, we mentioned this when we first talked about it last year, that espionage, I think, is like the most poorly implemented mechanic or the most boring mechanic, in my opinion, when it's just kind of tacked onto a lot of systems. So having it at the forefront, I'm very curious to see how they do that. And if it's just like almost like an RPG where you're sending people on missions and like, I could see it almost like XCOM, where you're managing operatives, you're hiring them.
That would be cool.
But the tactical part of it would be non-existent, so it would just be like the management aspect of XCOM.
Yeah.
We'll see.
And then everything is just dice rolls in the background, which I still think could be engaging.
Yep, lots of dice rolls.
Yeah.
We'll see.
I am looking forward to it because it is a unique concept. Instead of just, flat out another war game where you're painting the map. This one, different topic that hasn't been done. So, and like you said, in other games it's done poorly or sideshow.
And maybe they could have some inner office drama, right? Like
you got to root out a mole.
Maybe you've got to deal with politics within your administration.
Yeah, I mean, there's a lot you could do within it. I mean, you could have double agents inside your organization that you got to find. Again, I think last time I said I was very excited to play as the Stasi, which is kind of grim.
I'm getting more excited thinking about it. So, damn it.
Yeah, I know.
The more we talk about it, the cooler it sounds.
Yeah, that's why I was hyped.
I do agree with you, Tortuga, in that I think this is a common trend, but I feel like everything nowadays, outside of major publisher, like major games, it feels like everything gets announced 2 years too early. And so, like, they announced Espiocracy. It was supposed to come out last year, but I don't really, like, I casually kept a look at the, you know, the Steam chat, if you will, or whatever, the Steam forums. It never really seemed like it was ever close. Like, you didn't get a lot from the developer diaries or comments to be like, yep, it's right around the corner. Nothing, no new assets were really shared in the screenshots. And I mean, this has been my criticism of some of the micropro stuff. It just feels like stuff gets announced way early. So Espiocracy got announced, but you guys remember last year when we were talking about it, we were basically just reading off the Steam page, which was also not really saying a whole lot of anything. And it's kind of like, well, how do you get a sense of what this game is going to look like? Like, I'm excited about the concept, but so much of what that could be is based on in my mind versus anything that's been shown. And I think that's just hard. It's hard to get a vibe for those. And I do think when you announce games that early, I don't know, maybe you're doing it because you need to get funding from some investor somewhere. But like when you announce games that early, it just leads to this atrophy of the mind of like, you're cool, you're excited, and then you forget about it and you get less excited over time. And maybe that excitement will come back when they get closer to launch. But I have no confidence that it's going to be a 2025 release now. Like that's the date they have on there, but they haven't shared anything to give me a sense of like, oh yeah, they're making progress. Oh yeah, they're close. I still don't really know how that game's going to play. And I don't know. It's
an interesting thing because I guess I wonder. I'm guessing the team's pretty small for this game, right? Maybe 2-3 guys.
Oh, for sure. I'm not like, I realize they're probably working with limited resources. They might even be part-time. A lot of those kind of games are made by teams that are not fully 100% of their job.
I know a lot of the games that we personally are excited for are made by small teams. And I wonder if these small teams get excited and show off their product probably too early. But maybe it's a way to keep them motivated. I don't know, to gauge interest in their project. I guess there's pros and to get feedback on the game. So I can see why small studios would do it, but it does have the cons that you listed before.
I don't know if this is true, and it's not really the topic of this episode, but I think I've heard, like with Playway, I think I have heard that like they use initial announcements of games that they clearly, like, it's a tech presentation. I wouldn't even call it a demo when they announce games on Steam. And I've heard, again, I don't know that this is true, but I've heard that they use wishlist number to determine which one of those games actually are going to get funded and made, as opposed to just, oh, well, no one cared about that, we're not going to do that.
I believe this is true. I have heard this, and I was looking at my wish list just to refresh myself and see what was coming out this year. And I have multiple games that are published by Playway or one of its many other names that they have. It's all Playway. It's a very weird publisher, maybe kind of scummy in some ways, but there's like this game, Roman Empire Wars, and they have a CGI trailer and a bunch of, it looks like Total War, and it's like, okay, this is cool. I added it to my wish list. I don't know when this was announced, and it says its planned release is September 14th, 2025. I have heard nothing about this game.
It's been on my wish list for like a year and a half, and I've never seen anything about it other than like the initial.
Exactly.
And the other kind of suspicious thing is they'll run ads where you'll see that on like you'll see ads for the game, which is very clearly years away when they run those ads. And it's like, okay, so you're really just trying to garner interest. This is almost like an A/B test for what are we going to fund and what are we going to develop? And I don't know, maybe that's the best way to get market research for some of these companies, but I think it destroys a lot of goodwill when people end up with half their games on their wish list is just vaporware because not enough people wish list.
Exactly. And you know what? I just found a perfect example. So there was this game that was announced by, I guess, one of their shell company, I don't know, is Dirt Generals SA, which is also Playway, if I'm not mistaken.
How do you know this stuff, by the way?
Because when you go and you look at, like, Tank Mechanics Simulator, for example, the developer is Generals and then the publisher's Playway, and they're both S.A. I think it's all linked. I got my tinfoil hat on. I'm sure someone knows more about
that. I think S.A. might actually be something like like LLC in Poland. Like, I don't think that's all of their games. I've seen S.A. and studios I know are not them. But I do agree with you that they've got a bunch of like different brands that they use.
Yeah,
And I remember, this has been years, so I'm very vague on it, but I remember digging a little bit into Playway because they are a publicly traded company in Poland.
Right.
And like you could find information about this, some of this. Again, I'm pretty sure S.A is like a corporate abbreviation. So I wouldn't attribute every S.A to being Playway.
Sure.
But they definitely have a lot of different names that they go by. And again, I think it has something to do with the way the corporation is set up, but it does feel very scummy when it's like, it's very smoke and mirrors to be like, who's really this developer and this publisher? Just wishlist our game and maybe 5 years from now something will come out.
Just to show it off, there's the Simrail game, and its publisher is Playway.sa. And then its developer is Simrail.sa. So I think, I don't know, there's something going on there. I think they're all Polish companies, and the same was with U-Boat. Like Deepwater Studio developed U-Boat, but their publisher's Playway. Anyway.
It's hard to figure out because a lot of unlike Stillfront, which is, I've talked about the parent company for Game Labs, they're also publicly traded, not publicly in the US, but publicly in Sweden. But at least most of their stuff gets translated over into English.
Yeah.
Playway is very difficult because they're on a Polish exchange and they don't translate, as far as I've found, anything into English.
Yeah.
It's a lot harder to find information, and a lot of stock exchanges all over the world, like if you're an investor and you're used to looking at stock exchanges, there are very different levels of regulatory oversight depending on what country you're registered out of and what stock exchange you're registered. Like each exchange has their own rules in terms of information that has to be provided to shareholders. And so some of them are very transparent and very, clear, and some of them are like, I don't know what's going on here, but someone's given them money to list on this exchange and whatever.
Yeah, just after doing a meager Google search, this is off the General subreddit, which is the publisher of the game I was just about to talk about. It's a development studio from the Playway Group, specializing in historical and military games. And then they talk about Tank Mechanic Simulator being the biggest publishing success of Playway Group. But what Playway does, like you said, is has these, CGI trailers. They pump them out and probably just gauge wishlist interest, because there's this one game on my wishlist called U-Boat Commander. I don't know if you remember this. This was a few years ago now. And it was like you organize Wolfpacks. It didn't look very good, admittedly.
It's like that Silent Hunter campaigns game that never got off the ground.
Sure. The Silent Hunter Online?
Yeah, whatever. Wasn't there, or was it a plugin? But there was like some version of Silent Hunter, or maybe it was Silent Hunter Online, where they wanted to create like you could manage U-Boat, like Wolfpack.
Yeah, that was kind of Silent Hunter Online. But it did not look good. But I was like, this is on my wish list. I wonder if there's any news about this. And then I go and it goes, notice, U-Boat Commander is no longer available on the Steam store. And this is by DeGeneral. So this is an example of a game that they put up and then, realized there was minimal interest in this particular idea and I guess pulled it, or something else happened.
Then why does their release date still say coming soon?
Yeah, I don't know. And I guess I can see I added this game in 2021.
That's gotta be in violation of like Steam TOS. I gotta imagine Steam was not okay with companies posting games that are never.
Yeah, I don't know. And then like that Roman Empire Wars I added in 2021. The B-17 Squadron game I added in 2021. And this one doesn't have a release date either, I don't believe.
It's interesting because whenever you see those games, you can just kind of get a sense like, all right, this is a Playway game. Like you can just kind of get that vibe from however they look, however they feel. Maybe it is because it's just like a CGI trailer.
I mean, and I will say they have...
Not to turn this episode into Playway in 2025.
I don't know, sorry, can I ask a question? What is CGI? I mean, every video game we play is CGI. What do you mean by CGI?
Yeah, I guess just like it's a pre-rendered trailer not showing actual gameplay.
Got it. But U-Boat Commander, are you saying that the trailer that I just saw of it, which actually looked interesting, I would have wished this too, but now it's no longer on Steam. You're saying that this was all like fake?
I don't want to say that particularly, but if it's not just fake, it's probably a very, very early access situation.
The impression I get, Tortuga, is these are games in name only. They are a animated portrayal of what a game could look like, and that there is no code, there is nothing behind this of what the game will eventually, if it is ever made, built off of.
That's kind of my impression of it as well.
And it is a concept video to garner how much interest there is. And then if there is interest, then they will build a game.
It's pretty impressive. I mean, like, they have a lot of screenshots which look compelling to me. They look like they are in-game screenshots.
Sure. Yeah. I mean, I don't. But all the screenshots. I mean, the boat is, the UI doesn't change at all. I mean, looking at it, so
you're right. They just slapped a UI on top of it. Oh my god, it's fraud.
That's kind of where I'm coming at with it. But I will say, not to completely just dump on, they do publish some good stuff. U-Boat.
I mean, U-Boat was very popular and very successful. Like, they make games that other people don't make.
It's just some of the ways they try to garner attention for these games is less than ideal. I wish they would publish games that are, like the quality of U-Boat instead of just throwing stuff and letting it stick.
Okay, that what I would say is, now that it's been pointed out to me that there is a UI, obviously an identical UI slapped on top of all of these, I find that to me is like fraudulent. That it's definitely trying to portray. It fooled me. Maybe I'm just a big dummy, but it fooled me. I was like, oh yeah, it's got a GUI and everything. Now I'm like, oh my god, it's the same. It's the exact same thing slapped onto every picture just to give you the impression that it's an in-game shot. That is bullshit.
And another game I am looking forward to that it's actually on my 2025 list. If we want to go back into that.
Yeah, let's hear it.
My 2025 list, this is really, I'm just going to put it on the list because it is an interesting game. I'm excited to see how it shakes out. It is a game published by DeGenerals, S.A, which is associated with Playway. And it is called Tank Squad. Yeah. And I played the demo a while ago. The planned release date is 2025, and we all know how well that holds up. But I did play the demo, and it needed a lot of work. The demo was not very good, in my opinion, but they had the foundation of something that I was like, this could be pretty interesting. In my opinion, one of the best World War II tank experiences was IL-2 Tank Crew. It had fully modeled interiors and all that. And in this game, you can walk around, get on the tanks, hop in them, and, drive around with, like, buddies in a Tiger tank or whatever. And it's set on the Eastern Front. I know they were doing a live stream a couple of days ago showing off some new features, and it looked like they had polished up a good amount. So I'm interested to see how this one pans out. It's like 4-player co-op. You repair your tanks, replenish supplies, and all that. It looks pretty in-depth. And it looks visually appealing as well for the most part. A little cartoony in some spots, but I can look over that. The demo, again, it was not good, and it was really buggy. Like, they really shouldn't have done a demo at that point, because it did give me a bad impression of the game initially, besides just the core being something I was pretty interested in. So excited to see if the 2025 plans go through, but I'm interested in a co-op tank experience. Not everything needs to be PvP, and that's kind of what I'm excited for. Like GHPC, a game we all are interested in. I mean, have you played Gunner Heat PC, Tortuga?
Gosh, I don't know. I don't think so.
You should.
I've watched you play it, though.
Yeah, you should. But they are, I believe this year they are planning on adding, like, multiplayer co-op, multiple crew positions, things like that. 2025 seems like the year where I personally am more excited for games getting updates that I've already played. Games in early access that are going to have big features, and less so about new games. But that's just me personally, and I guess that's a different topic altogether.
2025, the year we polish up those games.
Exactly. Like Gunner Heat PC, for example, added infantry, which has been awesome. A lot of fun, and I think they'll do...
Hey, sir, that was in 2024, sir. Please keep it on.
Oh, 2024. I'm sorry. I apologize. But yeah, I don't know. I'm just... There's a lot of things like that I'm excited for in games I already play. And then being like, okay, Tank Squad might come out. I'm pretty confident some of these other things will happen in comparison. But anywho.
I will say, like, maybe, I think because it was a little bit fantasy, Carrier Deck didn't quite grip me the same way. But I would say that tank games almost feel like the perfect co-op experience. It doesn't require 15 people to play together. Like, It's perfect. It's literally like a small group of friends operate a tank together, right? You 3 or 4 people and you operate a tank together. Perfect.
Yeah, and you know that,
like the perfect environment. Now, I don't want every game to be a co-op. Like, I want a single player option. For example, like if Gunner Heat PC was just like, we're going full co-op.
no, they're not.
I'd be like, fuck, that's a game I want to enjoy single player too. But the idea of a co-op game in a tank, it's so perfect.
This is another idea for a podcast, the prevalence of multiplayer in video games. In some ways it's more difficult because you have to do netcode and stuff. And then in some ways it's easier because you don't have to program an AI that's actually competent. I miss single player in a lot of these games.
Wolfpack, like that, I would play Wolfpack more often if there was an ability for there to be a single player. And to be honest, the fact that it's just like, all right, get a group together and attack this convoy, a little bit less immersive and interesting because it's just like this one-off.
I gotta say, I've been playing some Wolfpack, and they added the whole boat and running the diesel engines and the electric motors and all this stuff. It's awesome. It is legitimately it is probably the coolest multiplayer experience I've ever had. And we should all do it again because we used to have pretty dedicated Wolfpack group.
Oh, we've had great times in that already.
And I know Aluckius actually messaged me asking when we're going to do it again because
hell yeah.
The new mechanics are phenomenal. Like the game, the development's really slow and yes, but it is incredibly detailed.
It's a cool game. I'm not denying that. I just
agreed.
I feel like there's a prevalence of those kind of co-op games where it's like, all right, that's cool, but I also don't want to forget single player.
Agreed.
You know, it depends on the game and that's fine and there's a place for everything, but
I'm a single player guy. I like playing with friends. I like playing with you guys, but it's hard to get a group together committed all the time for 2-hour, 3-hour round of Wolfpack, for example. But speaking of multiplayer and just other games, I'm going to quickly rattle off Squad 44 about games that are being updated. That game's getting the Pacific. That's a multiplayer game, and they have tanks and stuff. And
first-person shooter, right?
Yeah, it is a first-person shooter, but they do have cooperative tanks in it as well. So it's all PvP, but you do have, tanks, and they're releasing their Okinawa map this year.
Is Squad 44 the reincarnation of Postscriptum?
Yeah, Postscriptum kind of went the way of the dodo, I suppose. It was bought out, the team was bought out, and then they renamed it Squad 44 and have been updating it in a very good way. And their first map is the Okinawa map. I did the play test. It's great. It's great. And that's just another example of games I've loved. Because I do love Postscriptum / Squad 44. It's probably my all-time favorite first-person shooter. And they're just pumping out, like making great updates, improving the game. And I'm more excited about that than a lot of stuff that might, again, come out this year.
I mean, I like the idea of what you're saying because it does resonate with me. The fact that I'm not that excited about a lot of releases coming out. And I think that's just because I know the releases are going to come out and they're going to be, not good when they first come out. They're going to need a lot of time to continue improving them. God, sometimes I know I'm an old man sitting on my porch telling people to get off my lawn, but I miss the days when a game would be released in a condition where it was basically done.
When's the last game you played that was that way?
I would like to be able to answer that. I can't. It's been a long time.
Yeah, it's pretty hard. And I'm not even thinking about just small patches that improve things. Like all games had patches, but just something that was released and fully fledged and complete.
I don't know that it'll be fully fledged and complete, but I think that's what they're trying to do with Broken Arrow. Like, they're not doing early access with Broken.
Oh, really?
Good segue. That's one of the...
Well, if that's on your list, I'll let you talk about it, because it's not on mine, but I am interested in Broken Arrow.
Okay, perfect. Yeah, it's not on my list, but it's one I wanted to mention, so you take it away, Tortuga.
I don't have that much to say about it. It's, okay... How do we call this game? It's very similar to like the War Game series. It's very similar to like, what was that one that came out like 10 years ago in the hypothetical Russian? Well, God, they're all hypothetical Cold Wars, aren't they? The one where you fought in Seattle?
Oh man, I don't even know. Is it the? It's the one people talk about all the time. That's similar to Red Dragon.
Yeah, the one that people talk about all the time.
Total Conflict?
Not Total Conflict, but almost. Anyway, that one. So it's one of those real-time strategy games where you're controlling. It's supposed to be pretty.
Quickly, is it World in Conflict? Okay.
World in Conflict. Yes, that's it.
I don't think they're trying for it to be a simulator.
No, not simulator, but they want to give you
It has the,
you want the Hollywood level of control.
models things like front armor. Yeah.
Yeah, like they're cinematic. It looks good. It's hypothetical US versus Russia. I think the one thing that stood out is those are the only two countries initially anyway. It is modern days, so you've got F-35s and other things like that.
This one's published by Slytherin, so it's basically Slytherin's entry into this field, which has actually broadened a lot lately, because besides Warno and the other
Regiments.
Exactly, regiments, which was Microprose, right?
I think Regiments was solid. I will say that it seems like Broken Arrow is getting a lot more attention.
Broken Arrow has multiplayer. Regiments and the competitive Warno scene is quite large, and I think that generates a lot of hype compared to what Regiments was offering for that particular crowd.
Yeah, because I think I saw they had like 400,000 people participate in the open beta, which
That's insane.
even if it's like 200,000 or 300,000 people who buy that, like for Slytherin,
Yeah.
they don't sell games that sell that many copies. I mean, maybe they do and they don't tell you.
Except for Rule the Waves.
But like most of their games are a fraction of that in terms of sales.
Mm-hmm.
Yep, agree, true. So I don't have that much to say about Broken Arrow. It's that type of, it's that type of game. I have to say, simply because there's been so many of these games that have come out lately, I'm like not as excited as you can imagine. If there's like a game, okay, like Espiocracy. A lot of the appeal in that is there hasn't been a game like that. Now, switch over to Broken Arrow. I mean, I don't know, it's a World in Conflict clone, right? To a degree, at least. So is Wargamer and Dragon and all that.
Yeah, I mean, you've got World in Conflict, you've got Eugen Systems got like 5 games in this genre. You've got Regiments. There was that like literal clone copy of Warno or Eugen Systems games that got delisted on Steam because of a lawsuit.
Yeah, I will say that
Like there've been a lot of them.
pure gameplay mechanics of these types of games don't really excite me that much. That's honestly why I haven't played the open beta for Broken Arrow, but it has been on my radar as something that would be fun to play with friends and whatnot. And the modern equipment is kind of different.
Yeah,
I just think we already said it, but I think the thing that stood out to me most was they're like, yeah, we're not doing early access, which is kind of refreshing. Like, yeah, some AAA studios will do that, right? But like, it's refreshing to see a smaller studio be like, we realize that first impressions are important. Like, they haven't said that. I think their argument was, we don't want to get bogged down in trying to fix bugs for people if we go into early access, and then that derails our whole roadmap, which, like, that makes sense, right? You get stuck trying to fix the immediate concerns, and then it pushes out the rest of your development by months. But I also think there's an element of, like, I think maybe this goes to your lack of excitement, Tortuga. When games get released that are half-baked, like, it sucks the oxygen out of the room, because everybody who's excited goes and plays the game, and then if it's not really ready, you don't have a great experience. It's almost like junk food. Like, you leave feeling unsatisfied, right? You rush out, you grab the Happy Meal or whatever, and you eat it, and now you just feel like crap afterward.
I think that
Because it's like, well, this is kind of an unsatisfying experience. Like, yeah, I was excited.
yeah.
I was excited to have this burger, and I wish I had gone to a nicer restaurant.
Nobody wants to sit on the toilet for like 2 hours. You just wait. All right. Anyway, I like the Broken Arrow. A lot about Broken Arrow that I'm excited about, though, is what you already mentioned. It's the only game I can think of out of all these in the field that has the most modern. I mean, Warno or whatever, Wargamer or Dragon, but with F-22s, yes. Like, I'm excited about that.
there's nukes too.
They're all over in the trailers. They really want you to know that there are nukes.
Yeah, and it's like, you have all these contemporary weapons, like, some MLRS system, and they're like, oh, you can take it with nukes too if you'd like. And it's just like, yeah, that's different, I feel like.
Yeah, the game, that's much more my pace. I'm not very good at, like, the quick trigger reaction, but guess what doesn't care about that? A nuke.
A nuke, yeah, that's the dumb man's weapon.
Watch me win.
Well, I guess if do you have anything else you want to say about this? Otherwise,
No. Let's move on to the next one.
all right. So one of my games on this list is Burden of Command, which is a repeat, but it's been like 6 years since I've had it on my list.
Which by itself says something, doesn't it?
I think it says that they're a first-time game studio that really didn't have any clue how far along they were in the process of making a game. But Burden of Command, sort of a mix between tactical... You know, I did my top 5 list today for war games specifically on my YouTube channel, and some folks were commenting on Burden of Command. They're like, this looks like the old Talonsoft game, Divided Ground or other things like that in terms of the tactical, the way it looks anyway. And I definitely see that. I didn't at the time, but I do see that like the tactical side of things reminds me a lot of the old Talonsoft games, which is actually, I think it's that's something going in their favor. They're trying to mix it in with, hey, this is going to be a game about leadership and about making hard choices, and so sort of mixing in elements of like visual novel storytelling stuff. I love the concept. The demo was very limited when I played it last year in terms of content tied with it, so it was hard to get a true sense of how much do they lean into the narrative during the battles, and is this going to be disruptive to the experience? I had some reservations about that to say like, okay, well, like I know you're trying to show everything off in the demo, but I walked away thinking this felt a little disruptive in the tactical combat. It felt a little bit like the narrative was getting in the way of really feeling like, you know, not taking me out of it, which is ironic because the intent of that stuff, those events, is to be more immersive. So we will see. Again, that was the demo, and I think I'm curious to see what the final version of the game.
Do we say what that one's like, by the way? I mean, you mentioned it. I mean, to me, it reminds me of like...
It's a turn-based tactical combat game.
It reminds me of Advanced Squad Leader.
Yeah, there's definitely elements of that. Again, I didn't play Advanced Squad Leader a ton. I played the Divided Ground Talonsoft game, which is like Middle East turn-based, hex-based warfare, which this looks a lot like that. I think the tactical stuff that I played in the game, when I was playing the game, the tactical combat felt good. Like, I love the way that they're really focusing in on suppression. Casualties are generally pretty light at range but like suppression, breaking morale of units is more important really than other aspects of it. And so like, I like what they're doing with the tactical combat in this game. I hope that they find the right balance between these narrative elements they're trying to mix in and the tactical combat. Because to me, it felt like the tactical combat, again, based on a very limited demo, was very well executed. I think it's just a matter of how they mix that balance of, okay, but we really want this also to be a storytelling RPG game. And I guess we'll see. But it looks like after many years of being in one of those perpetual development games, it does look like it's coming out. Supposed to be coming out, I think, in February, or at least Q1. I wouldn't be shocked if it's delayed a little bit, but, I would assume it's coming out this year.
Wow, I did not know it was that soon.
I would also say that, if nothing else, it's cool. It's innovative, right? That somebody's trying something new. And if it doesn't work, I would still like to at least applaud the effort that somebody's willing to, travel the road less traveled. Or, take the road less traveled. I
mean, it's a question most war games do a really shitty job of asking. Of, like, what is it like to lead people in combat, right? Like, they all lean into the God's eye view of top down, you see everything, and the guys are just a chit. You don't really, and even the FPSs that try to be like, oh, war is hell, like, tend to, like, all right, well, now here's your next care package, and let's drop a nuke on these
war's
fuckers.
Go slaughter 50,000, combatants in an afternoon.
So I'm excited. I think it's, to your point, Tortuga, it's different. It warrants somebody looking at it. I will definitely be looking at it. I hope it does well.
Yeah, I mean, I hope it's good, but I'm not sure if it will be. But I do. Yeah, I would just say that. Like, I think that people who want to kind of like support these more indie projects that are exploring territory that hasn't been traveled a whole bunch, it might be worth for them to invest in it, just as a sign that the wargame community is, interested in seeing different things being done.
You just talking about it makes me excited.
And who knows what comes, right? Like, if the game is great. If it's not, it's still a cool idea. It's good that the idea is out there in the ether. Maybe, maybe someone else takes something from that and does something with it also, right? Like,
yeah, I have one game that is actually probably the game I'm most excited about. I put it up. I technically put it number 2 behind Espiocracy, but And that's, unfortunately for my reputation, another Hooded Horse title. Falling Frontier. And I think it actually might have more of a chance of coming out than Espiocracy. Just my gut feeling on it. If this comes out, I think it'll be the coolest game of the year. Probably, I'm predicting that this will be my game of the year if things go according to plan. It's a space game. It's kind of got this, it's like tactical space game, but it has an element of managing combat throughout a system. So it has that strategic and tactical type feel to it. It actually reminds me a little bit of, what's the Warhammer game that recently...
Battlefleet Gothic?
Yes, exactly. It has a little bit of that aspect of it, where you're managing the tactical weapon arcs and such of that. You can actually design your own ships in this. I know that in Battlefield Gothic Armada 2, Battlefleet Gothic Armada 2, that's the one. That one, you didn't design your own ships, you just picked from a preset list. So this is cool that you can actually design your own ships. There's supposed to be a 4X aspect to it, which I didn't really understand how that tied in. Maybe the battles are, I think that the tactical combat is the focus, but maybe there's like a system where you're...
I feel like the big picture stuff is more like Empire at War, the Star Wars game with the tactical fleet combat.
Yeah, exactly. That's what that's the same thing as... in Battlefleet Gothic Armada 2. It's the same thing, where it's not really the focus, but it's enough for people who have that strategic itch, which I very much do, to satisfy them, so long as the tactical battles bring you back in. It means all these things, to me, they all boil down to like XCOM, where you're managing the tactical battle, but if there's an interesting management side of it, when you go back from the tactical battle, I love that. It gives me, it's cohesive. It brings, to me, a strong incentive to keep playing the next tactical mission, because I know that's impacting the bigger strategic picture.
Yeah, it's just like with Total War campaigns. They generally give you
exactly
reason to fight this tactical battle. It's not just they give you a background and whatnot. There's motivation.
Yeah, exactly, and that's where Rule the Waves totally drops the ball, where the tactical battles in that can have sometimes, unfortunately, absolutely no bearing on how you do in the strategic side. It's very unrewarding, which may be realistic, but it's not fun.
Yep, makes sense.
I'm sure you played a lot of Rule the Waves, Wolf, so I know that you get that one.
No, but that seems complete. It seems the complete opposite of what actual naval battles were in that era. Because you have like Jutland, incredibly consequential battle, and it was just, I guess, Rule the Waves. It's just endless meat grinding.
Well, in Rule of Waves, you can have situations where you win every battle and then lose the war, or you get a white piece just because there's some die rolls under the hood. You're not always rewarded for victory points, and I think that they improved the system over the years. But so, anyways, what do you got? Did anybody have this one on their list or hear about it?
I've heard about it. I've known about it. I didn't know it was a Hooded Horse game, but it has been something. I'm like, that'll be fun when it comes out, and I might play that. It's one of those games where it'll get added to my, wish list, and eventually I'll get around to it.
Yeah, I think it looks really good.
The game itself, like the graphics, look awesome. It looks really cool.
And the fact that you can design your own ship, that's just, talk about, that's something that I love. You put a ship designer in a game.
Yeah, and
I'm all over it.
You used to be a big Aurora 4X player, didn't you?
Oh, yeah. Yeah, I loved for Aurora 4X. And Distant Worlds, we don't talk about Distant Worlds 2, but Distant Worlds 1, very good.
I thought you played Distant Worlds 2.
They still haven't added the mother effing ability to queue orders. Come on, Slytherin. Come on, Matrix. Oh, man. It's just that we can talk about this another time, perhaps, but Distant Worlds 2 has, they've wanted to lean into the automation, so they actually prevent you from being able to queue up, multiple order. You can't shift click multiple times. You can't, you have to give an order, and if you give any other order, it overrides the existing order. Can I tell you how unfun that is in tactical combat if you want to actually control some ships?
Well, especially in a game that is as massive.
Yeah, they're just basically saying anybody who wants to do the thing which I want to do, which is control my individual ships in the battles and stuff like that, screw you. And to be fair, they put it on their roadmap to do, and it's only been on the roadmap for 2 years, so we'll see. I'm pretty sure they're almost finished with it. Fingers crossed.
Another thing to be excited about in 2025, baby.
That's right. I'm not shitting. I shit you not. If they implement manual queuing of orders, I will put up a fucking series of that on my channel. I can't wait for them to have that.
Distant Worlds 2 felt like another one of those games that launched And I don't know that it was technically early access, but it felt like it launched and it wasn't really ready.
Yeah. Well, there's bugs.
And I was excited to play it, and I played it a bunch, and then I was kind of like, okay, well. And I've never felt the urge to go back.
The thing is, we have to remember that Distant Worlds 1 was like that too, and then Distant Worlds 1 with after DLC and everything, eventually it became Distant Worlds Universe, which is essentially the gold version of it, and that game was phenomenal. So it's really, I think that we have to imagine the same development path will occur for this, the same developer. Maybe in like 2 or 3 more years, we'll have a really good Distant Worlds 2.
Maybe it's the curse of being a content creator. I play too many games too early in their development, and I don't come to games later, and it ruins the experience.
Yeah, I've felt that way sometimes. Like when people are asking you to play the new demo, and then you're like, well, if I play this and it's good, I'll be able to broadcast it to others, but then you always perpetually playing things too early.
Hey, I got another game I want to talk about because I've only talked about one. Any of you guys paid any attention to a game called Liegecraft?
Can't say I have.
No, I don't even know if I've heard of this.
It's being developed by a company called From Chaos, which it looks like this is their first game. It is a 4X sort of medieval era game, but they're billing it as a 4X real-time RPG.
With hexes?
Yeah, kind of.
No, it says turn-based strategy here.
Well, so it says real-time RPG, so I don't know. This might be a game where the strategic map is turn-based and then there's real-time role-playing elements to it, because it looks like the game looks intriguing of like, okay, you move, it's a 4X game, looks a little Civ-y, but like medieval. Like the tech trees and the map, like it kind of has a Civ vibe, but in the Middle Ages. But then when there's also screens here where it's like you're at court walking around in what I presume is real time, and you've got like you don't want to challenge someone at your table to a duel or talk to them.
What the heck?
It just looks different. Like I don't know how excited to be or not about it. But it looks different. It looks intriguing, and I'm intrigued. I want to play it. Like I played a little bit of Great Houses of Calderia or whatever, which was like a fictional world that tried to be like CK-ish, but the execution was meh. I played that a bit last year, and this looks like maybe a further iteration on that, where instead of just everything occurring on screens where you read about someone's opinion, like maybe there's an element of 3D avatars moving across the screen. I don't know that moves the needle to it being a great game, but it's definitely something that caught my eye, and I'm intrigued to play it. Yeah, I mean, I that's kind of all I have to say about it. They've got 2 dev diaries. They're saying it's releasing this year, so yeah, I'm intrigued by it, but I don't know that I have much else to say.
Wolf, do you have anything else you want to talk about?
Yeah, I guess something coming out this year. It was confirmed to release this year, so we'll see. And they've been pretty good at keeping their promises. Is IL-2 Korea. This is a new iteration of the IL-2 Great Battles engine, which is a flight simulator that was set during the Second World War, and now they are going to Korea. So we have MiG-15s, Sabres, Yak-9s, all that good stuff. It seems to have a pretty good mix of piston engine aircraft and jet fighters. No carrier ops or anything, but the Korean Air War is always something that I have found quite fascinating. That's, old weaponry using, still 50 cal machine guns, 27 millimeter cannons and the like with,
Did they start to use Sidewinders toward the end of the war?
I don't want to say, I don't believe so, but someone can correct me if I am wrong. But like B-52s, for example, I don't believe were used in Korea. It was all B-29s. And that's another thing that looks cool, is there's actually 4-engine bombers. There are B-29s in the game. They will be AI, but I mean, that's what people have been asking for in the IL-2 Great Battles series for ages. So it looks like a good stepping stone for the engine, for the, game series in general. I know they want to go to the Pacific afterward. So yeah, that's kind of what I'm looking forward to.
I just Googled it. The first air-to-air kill with a Sidewinder. was with an F-86 against a MiG-15, but it was Taiwan versus China in 1958.
Okay, yeah, I was like, it seems really early, but, you know...
Right hardware, wrong years.
Yeah. That's actually pretty funny, and that's pretty cool. That would be another very interesting, even more niche than Korea. Because I think the Korean Air War is just awesome. It's fascinating. It's really cool. It has the same, Knights of the Sky sort of mythology that World War I has, but, with jets.
Yeah, I mean, I think especially after China's counterattack and then the front kind of settles down. So like the last 2 years of the war, basically.
Yeah, and a lot of that...
it becomes the air war is what it is like.
Interesting to
your point, like that's where the standout press stuff can happen because it's just...
Yeah, the reporters needed something to report on, and you had these guys going up, battling the MiGs, and that, I mean... That you had some good news, some interesting news compared to the rest of the front being a stalemate, kind of similar to World War I in a lot of ways. And, those pilots became legends. And I love the Sabre. It is my favorite jet by a country mile. But they're also adding the P-80, which I'm very excited for, the Corsair. And then the Soviet aircraft, of course, like the IL-10, the IL-10 and the Yak-9 seem very fun to utilize in this sort of environment. So yeah, I'm looking forward to it. I love IL-2 Great Battles, and this seems like a interesting step, a good direction. There's been a lot of drama with the IL-2 series. Their lead producer, left and started up his own studio, which is another thing I'm excited for. That pretty much leads me to number one. That is...
Well, I will say I'm also excited about the Korea IL-2 Korea. I've maybe it's the time I'll actually spend time jumping into flight sims more seriously. It's one of those things I've always wanted to do, and
this guy, just for the audience at home, me and Tortuga Power flew IL-2 quite a bit. We get THG to join. THG takes off, flies in the opposite direction, and gets uppity that we left him behind. When he's just...
What are you talking about?
This is a very vivid memory I have of...
It's a dream. It's a memory in your hallucinogenic mind.
They're like, the front's east, buddy, and he's flying west. Like, where is everything?
Just because listen, I need those fancy gizmos to tell me where to go. I'm not reading the fucking map. Give me a goddamn Garmin up there. Let me know where to go.
Yeah, Korea. Was this on your list, THG?
Well, not on the list for this because I knew you were going to talk about it, but it is definitely on. Like, if I was to say 10 games I'm most excited about this year, IL-2 is definitely up there, or IL whatever the hell Korea is.
Yeah, it's like they're changing the naming scheme, kind of like what Total War did. So it's Korea IL-2 series.
Oh, that bodes well.
I have a question. Is this they're a Russian company, right?
That is correct. Yeah, they are based in Russia.
How does that work with like the sanctions and all that? Are we like there's no problems there?
So the devs are Russian. They're like a lot of Russian companies. They're based in like Cyprus. Like their HQ is in Cyprus or something for some like tax reasons.
That's right.
I don't know. And that is something that I think a lot of people are having problems with IL-2. And on all these flight sim companies, they are Russian. Like the DCS developers, a bulk of them are Russian. Again, their HQ is in Switzerland or something to kind of get around that. So yeah, that's a problem. And that's why, just briefly, this is not a game that is going to come out, but it's something I want to bring to the attention. If you are interested in flight simulators, there is a new thing on the horizon called Combat Pilot. It is by the lead producer is Jason Williams, who did the Great Battle series. He left shortly.
Doesn't sound very Russian of a name.
Yeah, well, he was the producer in America, managing Russian developers. He left after the invasion of Ukraine. And he ended up kickstarting his own, game with a development team in the Pacific. It's called Combat Pilot. Their first things focused on Midway.
Wow, cool.
And they already have a playable alpha. So that is something to keep your eye on in the future.
Definitely.
Probably not something that's going to have much playable this year, but something I'm looking forward to. So,
side note, speaking of Korea, The Hunters.
Good book.
Read that book if you haven't already. Real good book. Written by a pilot in Korea, about a pilot in Korea. Fictional novel, but like written by an actual guy who flew sabers.
Indeed. The movie's kind of fun too.
Oh, they turned it into a movie, didn't they? Okay. I've heard multiple people, including one pilot, who's like, from a psychological point of view, it's like one of the best books about being a pilot.
Huh. Interesting. That's good to know. I may need to reread it again.
It's interesting to like, especially like the whole like, I guess maybe less relevant in modern combat, but like the whole, he spends a lot of time looking and stressing over being able to see as well as like younger pilots, and I think that's kind of interesting when you think about, especially Korea, where you're starting to get jets and everything's moving a lot faster, but just like how important your eyes are as a pilot in that era.
Yeah, I mean, Korea's where the whole ODA loop came in. It's like observe, orient.
Oh, yeah.
Decide and act. I think Boyd. Yeah, so.
Yep, it is Boyd. Yep.
Yeah. Again, Korea, fascinating age for air combat. And something that doesn't get nearly enough attention, in my opinion. Yeah, excited. And like, there was a book called Mig Alley, and it really touched on the strategic bombing campaign of Korea, and I found that very fascinating. So that's kind of why I'm excited to see actually B-29s in the game.
I used to play a lot of Chuck Yeager air combat growing up.
I've seen footage of that and such.
It's so blocky and bad, like by modern standards. But my favorite scenarios, because it was sort of like, hey, Yaegar was in the Air Force from World War II all the way even. I think he was obviously not flying in Vietnam, but he was still in the military in that time. And so like it had missions from World War II, missions from Korea, and missions from...
Yeah, that's awesome.
And the Korean missions were always my favorite, because a lot of it was like, you're in a P-51. Oh shit, there's MiG-15s. Good luck.
Oh yeah.
But like it was always a lot of fun playing that game, and I love the idea of a modern Korea scenario, just because there's so many more options of how you... I don't know. It's just, you don't get a lot. It's a transition period in air combat where you are going from piston to jet, and so there's a lot of interesting things I think you can do with that that you can't do when everything's all the same. And in World War II, especially by the end, like outside of the handful of jet stuff, it's really like the difference in performance, as much as folks want to say. The difference in performance between most of the high-end piston aircraft at the end of World War II, pretty marginal in terms of...
compared to like a MiG-15 and an F-51, yeah.
Exactly.
Yeah, I can definitely see that.
Also, you get a lot of like lesser-known aircraft, like, the Navy's, the F-9 or whatever it was.
P-80s, I love P-80s. I love a lot of those early jets with like the wingtip tanks. They're ugly as sin, but, that's kind of why I like them, frankly. I'd love to have carrier ops in it as well, but that does not look like it is happening, unfortunately.
Well, the one thing I will say about IL-2 is they usually, like, that game is going to be, well, I guess assuming it sells well. But if it sells anything, if it sells well, that game is going to be in development for a decade. I mean, IL-2 Great Battles they were adding content to that forever. Honestly, I'm surprised they moved off of it.
Yeah, it's at the end. Just to touch on that, IL-2 Great Battles is still receiving updates. They're adding like an Odessa map. There's a Winter War map, so like Finland area, and they're adding a handful of new planes. So they are kind of updating it in the background, but it looks like they will be shifting to the new engine with Korea and stuff.
So like this is their tech upgrade, right? Like, because Flying Circus and Great Battles use the same.
That's right. And it's all an evolution of the Rise of Flight engine, which, 2007, I think, is when that game first took off. So. All
right, so I guess this is my number one, sort of. I didn't really rank them in any order. But I did want to talk about Never Second in Rome, which is being made by Alessandro Roberti. He made A Legionary's Life. It is like one of those roguelike narrative-based games that's trying to tell a story. But what's different with like A Legionary's Life was, hey, you're a Roman soldier in the Punic Wars, and you go through, the campaigns against Carthage, and you get these different scenarios that occur, and then you've got to fight these battles, which is kind of like, similar to Heads Will Roll, although obviously it came out before, where it's like, all right, you're a soldier, you got a certain amount of stamina, a certain amount of energy. That's the same thing. But, a certain amount of points. You get these different situations where you've got to like block and then choose how you want to attack, and a lot of die rolls, a lot of RNG. all like around this neat little narrative wrapper of like what's going on with your soldier, what's he experiencing, and what points are you going to invest to make your character better. And again, similar to Heads Will Roll and how that works, but Never Second in Rome is taking that concept and saying, okay, well, you're not a soldier, not an ordinary soldier anymore. Now you're in charge of a century, so you have 80 to 100 men that you are commanding. And so it has all those individual combat and narrative elements, but now it's putting you in the shoes of someone who's also like a field commander of a certain decent number of soldiers. It takes place during the campaigns of Caesar in Gaul, and it has very war-gamey elements in terms of how you command your soldiers as well. So you still got all that individual soldier combat stuff when you are met in a challenge against, one-on-one combat, but then you've also got to manage your troops, their frontage, their fatigue, how you want them to move forward and attack. Do you want them to fall back? And I think that is a really nice twist on this type of game that I haven't seen before. So I think that's an interesting twist with a new narrative around Caesar. You've got to manage your favor with Caesar, which is, again, not dissimilar to how Heads Will Roll with like trying to manage your relationship with the Lord in that game. But at least in terms of the managing of your legion or your century, that is a very different set of challenges and very different game mechanics that are getting brought into this sort of formula. And I'm excited. I played the demo a bit. I was like, wow, I didn't play it a ton, but I didn't want to totally spoil it. But when I was leading my century in combat, I was like, this is different. Like, this is very different and feels a little bit war gamey compared to the way these other games feel. And I'm definitely excited to see the full release. I think it's coming pretty soon here, but it's early 2025.
Yeah, I think our other friend who's frequently on the podcast, Finish Yaegar, was talking about that one a little while ago as well. I'm looking forward to that.
Yep, this is definitely one that I'll be playing. I mean, as we know, I liked the Legionary's Life, and I liked Heads Will Roll, so I will not miss this one.
Looks like February.
Yeah, it's coming out pretty quickly. Really didn't know much about it for a game that's being released in like a month.
I mean, it's one of those, the curse of being the individual developer, right? Like, I think he made a Legionary's Life by himself. Maybe he has help on this, I'm not sure. I remember it was announced last year at some point, and I was like, oh, that's cool. But I didn't really pay super close attention to it. I guess Legionary's Life came back in 2019, so it's been about 5 years. But yeah, I'm intrigued to see what comes of this. I know you guys were a little bit higher on Heads Will Roll relative to a Legionary's Life in terms of some of the mechanics. I thought the narrative storytelling in a Legionary's Life was very well done. Felt appropriate for a game like that was trying to be more serious, where I think if the boobies don't give it away, I think Heads Will Roll is not trying to be very serious. So I liked that about a Legionary's Life, and I from what I could tell from the storytelling, I think Never Second in Rome does a good job of that as well. But that's the last of the three I was, I guess, most excited about.
Well, just to touch on, I guess I got two. I'll just quickly rattle them off. Modern naval warfare. Might see something about that this year. Maybe, I don't know. Puts you in command of a Virginia...
Let's at least say what this is, because this is exciting. This is essentially the new...
Dangerous Waters.
Yes, thank you. How do I not know these games? Yeah.
Yeah, it looks to be a spiritual successor to Dangerous Waters. It puts you in command of a Virginia-class submarine in the South China Sea, and fully 3D, fully interactive. It looks awesome. I played an incredibly early demo. The game has changed a lot. I played an incredibly early demo on my channel. You can go check that out if you're interested. But yeah, it looks like they're making...
What about co-op?
It will be multiplayer, and I know one thing that has distracted them is they actually got contracts from the U.S. Navy.
Oh, so are they going to be able to model, can I fly an anti-submarine warfare helicopter against you and a submarine?
Not initially.
We did that, and that was a ton of fun.
That was fun. I think they want... So initially it will be only a Virginia class. I think they're doing multiple blocks. They are doing multiple blocks. I will say that confidently. But they do want to add other submarines and platforms as DLC. This is the plans I roughly know
I
of.
thought I saw an Astute in the trailer.
Yeah, so the Astute is something they want to add. I know like an Akula is something they'd like to do, and a Type 212, things like that, a Kilo. But those are all pretty far in the future.
The multiplayer is just co-op, right? Like you're going to be multiple stations within the same sub, I assume.
I believe, and I may be wrong, don't quote me on this, but I do believe there will be PvP as well. So you could have multiple boats out there, but I may be, just like in Dangerous Waters. So in Dangerous Waters,
multiple all right, America's Civil War coming to modern naval warfare.
But eventually they'll have,
I know, just
red vessel. Yeah, like kilos or whatever. Yeah, it'll be.
I just want to be Jonesy. You can be the captain. Just let me, lead you on a wild goose chase.
Look, what people really want to know is that when we were playing Dangerous Waters and I was a helicopter and Wolf was a submarine, he never destroyed me once, and I'm pretty sure I destroyed him a few times.
No, that's factual.
You were the helicopter?
He sure was.
What did you want him to do? Surface and drop a stinger off?
Yeah, exactly. That's exactly what you can. You can do that in Dangerous Waters. You can surface, get up with a man pad,
stupid,
and blast them.
Yeah, that seems like I can imagine a sub skipper's really like, all right, boys, we're going to get this nuke boat up on the surface. That's where we're going to be safe.
Dangerous Waters, man. I mean, doing the helicopter's not easy stuff. You had like 18 different types of sono buoys. They all did different things, had different settings for finding the subs. It's pretty cool.
That's the third time I've heard you mention how many types of sonar buoys. Like, you seem, every time this game comes up, you are obsessed about, like, when you're talking about cold water, about
sea power. I know
sea power. You're like, I want all the sonar buoys. I want all the
different types of sonar buoys and sea power. Yes, I do. I want that bottom bar that shows all your weapons. I want to have a little arrow that scoots over or something to see all the crap that I can deploy.
This is one to look forward to, though, for sure. I mean, Modern Naval Warfare, that might be like the number 2 game I'm most excited about this year. Oh, maybe number 3 behind Hooded Horse titles, but
yeah, I mean, I think it has a pretty good shot of us seeing something. I know they were going into beta Q4 of last year, so like a closed beta situation. So
good. Let them keep developing it behind the scenes. I would love for that game to be released in a place where it's not a disappointment. Nothing would like punt me away from the game quicker than playing it and then just being turned off. It would be hard to have me come back. Good experiences in like Dangerous Waters.
All right, THC, what's your number 1 game?
I mean, I kind of listed the 3 already. I'm just listing. I'm doing the Tortuga thing, and now I got like 30 other games I want to talk about.
Okay, do we got to do an honorable mention for Task Force Admiral?
I would put Anno 17 or 117 on there. Pax Romana.
Which one?
Anno 117 Pax Romana. There's a new Anno coming out.
Oh yeah.
Rome city builders apparently are a big thing now. Between like
Caesar 5, baby. That's what I want. That one company redid the Pharaoh city builder, which I played and had a lot of fun doing. I want them to redo Caesar.
Well, Citadelum, which came out toward the end of last year, was basically like Civ 3. It felt like Civ 3. Maybe easier. Not Civ, Caesar.
I should look at that then.
It was pretty good. I mean, the general criticisms are like, this is too easy, like, once you figure this out. And they've got, like, some gods, like, mechanic, which is a little bit different. But, like...
That was in Caesar.
I don't know. It seems like Rome city builders and, like, ancient city builders are seeing a little bit of a revival.
Cool. I like that.
Yeah, Anno 117, the next in the Anno series. I really wanted to play the 1800s game because, like, that's my jam for, like, era.
They ruined that one, though. I mean, in my opinion, like, I hate the DLC drop bloat, man. There's, like, what, 20 DLC for that game? Like, I just can't... I get very disinterested in a game that has more than, let's say, 5 DLC. If it's a collect them all type situation, I'm the kind of person who doesn't want to play a game that's incomplete, so I definitely have that completionist, want to get all the DLC just so I play the game in its fullest capacity. So So
you definitely would bankrupt yourself if you played DCS.
Well, I don't know. I mean, DCS is a little special because it's not really about, like, the game mechanics don't change one to another, you just get to fly different aircraft. Whereas, like, if you, let's see, in some of these games, like...
Man the Guns for Hearts of Iron 4 overhauls Navy stuff. Like, there's a completely new game. Yeah.
Exactly. Like, if you can't... That's the perfect example. when you have a game which you're playing at slightly less than the full amount, the options available to me if I'm playing as the United States are limited by the DLC I have in Hearts of Iron 4. And the same is true in Anno 1800, right? Some of the items that you have access to are limited by whether you have bought DLC. That's a big turnoff to me. If you then have like 20 DLC, the onus is then on me to go and research, okay, which ones do I actually need? And I just find that, look, if you only have 3 or 4 DLC, I will buy the complete package. I'll pay the extra money. Don't be a douche about it and have like the entire revenue of their product is from DLC, EU4.
Okay. We should do a DLC episode.
We need a DLC episode. We need an early access episode. We could just rant. This could just be the most negative podcast in history. Yeah.
Name it State of Gaming in 2025.
Anno 117. Let's see how it comes out. Let's see. I mean, do they already have DLC planned for it? I don't know. But yeah, that one's Civ 7, as you were saying, will be interesting because I basically think the Civ series is pretty much dead at this point. That after 5, there's been basically no innovation. So I don't even know why people are playing 6 or 7, but good luck to you. This is my Tortuga's hot takes.
In Civ's defense, I think that is true of many series at this point. I don't think Civ is unique to that. I think a big part of the lack of innovation is, I think, probably around when Civ 4 came out, I think was maybe the last time there was a meaningful change in the computational powers of computers. Not like, I mean, obviously computers are way better than they were 20 years ago, but I would say like in the last 10 to 15 years, to me, at least for strategy games, I don't think we've seen a major leap forward in tech. There's modest improvements and gains, and there's definitely been huge investments in graphical fidelity in a lot of things. I don't like, you can look at some games that are well done from a decade ago, though, that still hold up well.
Nobody's playing Civ 7 for the graphics. At least I don't think so.
No, but I think, like, when you look at Civ 1...
Civ 7 is about gameplay, right?
Sure, but Civ 1's gameplay was very limited by the tech available at the time. Like, you could not do things in Civ 1 that you can do in Civ 7. And that was from a technical design perspective. They had to make compromises based on the systems of the time. And I think that was still true, like with Civ 3, like when Civ 2 and Civ 3 came out, like they were doing things you couldn't do before. And I think when Civ 4 came out, that was kind of Civ 4 is probably the modern version of Civ, right? Like, I think that's when the game became what it is now. You know, so I don't know how much you could...
I can see that in Civ 1, right? Civ 1 to Civ 2, I think there were technical limitations. We've read about it, right? In Sid Meier's biography thing. But I don't think that even existed in Civ 3. I think that in Civ 3, it was there was probably some more hurdles because of processing power or whatever. But yeah, I don't really. I would say that, look, if you're willing to already concede that Civ 4 was in the modern era, look at the difference between Civ 4 and Civ 5 and realize that was the game willing to take chances and willing to mix things up. And basically, they were willing to take a risk to evolve the gameplay. And that shit never happened between 5 and 6 or 6 and 7. As far as from what I can see, you can look at Civ 5 and you can look at Civ 7, and can you even tell that they're different games?
So was Civ 4 Soren Johnson, or was that Civ 5?
Yeah, that was Soren Johnson. And it was the notable difference, the huge difference was they went from tiles in 4, squares, grids, to hex grids in 5. And also, only one military unit could occupy a hex at a time in 5 versus, the death stack that you had where all your units were stacked together in 4.
I didn't really play, frankly, a lot of Civ 5 or 6, and most of what I played in 4 was the colonization remake that they built off of Civ 4.
Good games. Civ has had a lot of good games, but boy, I have to say it's not interesting. I have one game that I kind of want to update on a little bit. Alliance of the Sacred Sons. I think I mentioned this last year. This is basically CK, Crusader Kings in space. This game was, for a time, going to be published by Hooded Horse, and they have parted ways since. I even have an anonymous source that I talked to about this who gave me some inside information. I'm not sure if it was really inside information, but just about how I'm not even sure the game will be released in 2025, essentially, because I think that the opinion, the scuttlebutt is that the game wasn't being developed quickly enough. This is a game that's been in development for forever, like 8 years, I think. I don't know. I at least remember it being something that people were interested in back in 2019. There was already like footage of it, so it's been for the long haul. So that's just a quick update on Alliance of the Sacred Sons. I'll probably talk about that back in 2026 if I can, especially if I can get a hold of the developer. That'd be nice. Another one we didn't mention, just to rattle them off: Radio Commander Pacific Campaign, the original Radio Commander. And what was the other one? Radio Commander and Radio
General.
Radio General. There were two. They both had very similar concepts where you're just communicating your strategy via radio. So you kind of have to use a map and figure out things. It's trying to be a little bit realistic.
I liked Radio General more. Radio Commander was a little bit too like, we're going to make a Vietnam game based on, we watched a bunch of Vietnam movies and we don't know anything about the actual war. And now we're going to make some melodrama about like different characters within your unit. Radio General was much more of just like, yeah, you're a division or brigade commander and you've got to issue orders via radio and you don't know who these fuckers. Who cares if Jim's wife is cheating on him, because who's Jim?
And then you get fragged.
I just like, I thought Radio General was a better war game. I thought Radio Commander tried to be a little too cute with what they were doing, and I wasn't there for that. So, well, it'll be interesting to see what Radio Commander Pacific is like, because if there was the weakest element, the strongest element was the concept for Radio Commander. The weakest element was the way they chose to execute the extras. Hey, anybody paying attention to Kaiserpunk coming out in a couple of weeks?
Oh my gosh, I was looking at the wrong list. I was looking at the wrong I've been talking about the wrong list.
You didn't notice till now?
Well, there are some similarities. We didn't mention Menace, which is the new Battle Brothers game from the Battle Brothers developers. They're doing Menace. It's a modern game instead of the ancient fantasy world that they had for Battle Brothers. It's kind of interesting. Oh my god, here it is. Fragile Existence. I knew I missed one. God, what the fuck is wrong with me? I've got to redo this whole episode.
You can go talk to yourself and ship me the audio.
No, man, I'm not going to do that. I'm just kidding. That can be a bit, whatever. I have, for some reason, Dune Awakening, and, I mean, we didn't talk about Kingdom Come Deliverance 2.
Yeah, I'm looking forward to that. It's not really a strategy game, but yeah.
But it's something to look forward to.
Apparently, the studio that makes Kingdom Come Deliverance, Warhorse, since the first game, they were acquired by Embracer Group, which has gone through all sorts of fucking chaos. They were like buying everybody up because like they were owned by this rich guy who just wanted to own all the IP of all the games out there because he was like a big nerd and just wanted to collect it all. And then he drove them into the ground and they went bankrupt as fuck and like sold a bunch of those studios back off, spun some of them off independently. But I guess Kingdom Come's still owned by Embracer Group. I don't know. It's a weird situation with them. Be interesting to see what happens post-launch and what kind of support.
I can't believe I was looking at the wrong list. I cannot believe this. I mean, have you guys heard of 400 Catapults?
No.
Nope.
Is that a
sounds fake.
Is that a
man? I'm an idiot, man. This is actually a pretty cool game. It's like They Are Billions, and it's like Diplomacy is not an option, but it's like a more realistic medieval tower defense type game. It looks pretty cool. I mean, it's a little bit city builder and a little bit survival. Oh my god, I was in the wrong list. I cannot believe I was in the wrong list.
Again?
No.
How the hell were you in the wrong list for an hour and a half, dude?
That's wild. That's actually get crazy.
So do I need to like say you're not excited about any of the games you were just feigning excitement about?
Well, the thing is, Wolf was like Kaiserpunk. I mean, sorry, you said Kaiserpunk, but then Wolf's like, where? And I was like, wait a second. I thought that was on my list. And that was what triggered it.
Oh my god. What about, has anybody looked at Yield, Fall of Rome? It's another game that I noticed is coming out.
No, that one's not on here.
What was that about? The Byzantine Empire or something?
No, Byzantium isn't Rome. I mean, I guess it depends. A lot of people consider it Rome, but it's actually being published by Daedalic Entertainment, the guys who published that Destroyer Commander game.
They do a lot of stuff.
What's the name of it?
Yield, Fall of Rome comes out in a couple of weeks, actually next week.
Yield,
like stop, halt, I don't really know. The UI looks weird.
I've never heard of this game.
It looks, actually looking at this, it reminds me of that. Remember we were talking about Soren Johnson a little while ago. Remember that game he kickstarted that like kickstarted that like failed miserably?
No, that was not Soren Johnson, you big dummy. That was
Enemy at the Gates?
that was not Soren Johnson. That was John
Oh, that was John Schaefer.
Schaefer, yeah.
Okay. Which I don't even think that game's on Steam anymore.
Oh, it shouldn't be.
Don't see it on Steam.
I'm gonna be honest. When you were saying "yield fall of Rome," I thought you were saying "ye old."
Yeah, I couldn't make it out either.
It's still on Steam. Just mostly negative. 392, 39%. Oof. That's no, what was it, Superpower 3? I can't believe you didn't notice you were talking about something.
Well, all of the items that were on my list the one that I talked about, are on my full list. They're just, I don't know where this second list even was made. It was like a drunken stupor.
Were you just hallucinating this whole episode? You were talking about drinking beer with no fuzz.
I don't know what's in there, man. It has some serious stuff.
Dude's tripping. He's just drinking, beer from last decade.
Quickly, is the Dune game? Is that the survival game by the guys that did like the Conan game?
Yes, that's the one.
Isn't there a Dune like RTS game?
Yeah, that one was already released like 2 years ago.
Okay, got it.
That was by the people who did Northgard, and I thought that game was pretty good. But this new one...
Yeah, I am looking forward to the Awakening game. The survival. Yeah, it looks fun.
I will say I think for me, gaming this year is going to be a lot of going back to games that have been improved. I've been watching you play Gunner Heat PC, Wolf, and like I haven't played it in a long time, but it looks like it's made so much progress. I'm just not sure when. Like, is there another update I want to wait till and then jump back in? But then like also even like Victoria 3, I'm curious to see how some of the updates have changed or improved that. Especially Crusader Kings, the most recent DLC for that, where they added like Byzantium mechanics. I've heard good things about that. There's a lot of games that were released in maybe substandard states, and I'm curious to go back to a lot of stuff. Hopefully this year, I am always bad about game releases into early access. I play it for a bit, get frustrated, and never come back. And a lot of times games improve a lot. I'm sure Superpower 3 isn't deserving of a 10% score on Steam.
What? You don't think it's worth it? That
I don't know. I would hope they've
version of the game
improved it.
No, it's dead.
That one might have been tongue in cheek, but yeah, it feels like games get released into early access and then we get upset about them and then we never come back. And maybe there are games out there that are worth a second.
Yeah, I'm sure there are plenty of games that are.
Okay, take a look at this game. Just bring it up on your browsers. Heart of the Machine, Hooded Horse title. It's pretty interesting. You play. it's very topical. I mean, it's you play as an AI gone rogue. And you're taking over a city. And I think that there's elements of like not trying to be discovered too quickly, and you launch little missions, but it's also a tactical battler, and that at some point you're discovered and you start fighting. I don't know. It's supposed to come out at the end of this month, probably before this podcast even goes out. But it has enough in it that I am keeping an eye on it. I'm not like super excited about it. I'm just gonna. This is one of those wait and see titles. But it has some potential.
Have either of you played Every Day We Fight?
No,
but I've heard of it.
That's another Hooded Horse title. I think they sent me a bunch of emails.
And they haven't emailed me. I'm on this podcast where we shill Hooded Horse, and
looks like it's a real-time tactical roguelite. Looks like World War II.
I'm not as interested in that one.
Oh wait, no, what the heck is going on there? That looks fantasy-ish.
There's aliens.
Aliens? Okay.
Yeah, I don't know. I don't know enough about it, but it doesn't. Yeah, we should just tell people to look at all the Hooded Horse titles coming out in 2025. They have a ton of them. Can you believe what Manor Lords has done for Hooded Horse? They are just pumping money everywhere.
Maybe that's a bad thing.
I mean, look at an injection of capital into the gaming infrastructure can only be a good thing.
Just reminds me of BlackBerry, where they were so successful almost by accident.
You're comparing Hooded Horse to BlackBerry? That's what we're doing.
Yeah.
Well, we also have Star Citizens, which is the obvious counterexample to investment of capital into the video game space is a good thing.
I think they have done very good for themselves.
I've never been more tempted to get into Star Citizen than I was this year. Just as a side note.
Well, every year it'll get better, but
I know that's exactly.
And if you just give them a little bit of money, just send them $50, then it'll get even better.
That's all they need to make it, Wolf. The reason they haven't finished that game is because you haven't invested $50 yet.
I actually think the Squadron 42 or something Star Citizen related is supposed to come out this year.
I mean, their trailers are so sick. They're so good. I mean,
that's where all their money went.
Yeah, Squadron 42, you're right. I was an early backer of this game before it even reached $1 million, which is like $700 million ago.
Have you played it much?
I've probably played like 10 hours of it. When I was playing it that's also a really bloated stat, because when I was playing it at some point, it was early on enough that like you spent hours just wandering through the station to figure out how to get into your ship and stuff. It was really early on. So, then I came back to it once and I played it when there was actually meaningful dogfights you could do. But I like that, just fighting in space without any context for it, without like having this person who has money and you're buying ships and upgrading your ship and, the whole like thing that it's supposed to be, just having standalone tactical battles in space where you just dogfighting was not interesting. It did not keep my attention at all. That's why I didn't play much. We'll see where it goes though. I'm excited about Squad 42. Having a narrative to like frame that dogfighting would be fantastic. I mean, that's what Wing Commander was, and that's why people are excited about Squad 42. I think I got through all of them. Did I mention Fragile Existence? I should actually say this one because it was one of my top Hooded Horse titles. It's actually a little bit similar to Falling Frontier, except for the planets. There's an emphasis more on the planets, and you actually see the units on the planet. So you basically zoom from space onto the planet's surface. It's a little bit like Supreme Commander, I guess. Did Supreme Commander have actual spaceships? Maybe not. But it's got that kind of feel to it. Supreme Commander, that was the Total Annihilation Revisit. Are you guys following any of this? This is all just words.
Those are...
Okay, anyway, it's a RTS game where you have the surface of a planet that you can rotate. It's actually a sphere. It's not just a flat terrain. And you can zoom out enough where you're actually looking at space. And you rotate the world. You're actually going to attack people like on the other side of the world. But at the same time, it has space battles. I don't know. I don't remember. But I think you can construct ships on the planet and then send them into space. I don't know. To me, it looks pretty cool. It's got an interesting concept. It's at least one that, again, I'm going to wait and see. I'm pretty excited about this one. I would say that this is probably only slightly behind Falling Frontier. And that's the last of my forgotten list that I didn't mention.
Oh, there we go.
Anyway, guys, thanks for coming on to our episode of the most anticipated, or maybe not as anticipated, or maybe it's the wrong list. Episode of 2025. Next time we talk, I don't know what we'll talk about next. I know we're
not keeping that in there. I'm not going to tell people I got the wrong list.
This is the 2025 most anticipated list episode. We will see what we talk about next time. I know we've been wanting to talk about our thoughts on early access a lot. You've gotten little slivers of it here and there over the last 5 episodes. So we will see what we talk about next time. But until next time, this is the Historical Gamer. You can call me Matt. Thank you, Wolfpack, for coming on yet again. Thank you, Tortuga. I hope you guys had a great start to your New Year's. And, we'll talk to you again soon, hopefully.
And check this one out, too. Wild Tactics.
It's just sending lists of games. It's like the Mitt Romney list of women.
Wild Tactics. It's like XCOM, but a spy. Whoa, this has got furry type stuff. This guy doesn't even put my channel on the description.
That's not true. You're in there.
Yeah, retroactively we're backing out of you. Yeah.
You got to scroll down. You're at the bottom.
What? I'm actually. I don't know if this is better or worse than just being omitted. Oh no, I added you. Just intentionally put you where nobody will ever see it.